This is Stryker of Enyo, and this is the game review for Escape Dead Island. Yes, that's right, quite possibly the worst game of 2014 is back in a review that I'm making several years later. But hey, it's Zombie Awareness Month. That's why I'm looking at this game. And dear God, next year I should probably pick a better game because it's also birthday week for me. So I really don't want to be picking bad games to review when that's going on. But yes, it's Zombie Awareness Month. I want to change it to Zombie Appreciation because that sounds better, but I'm not the guy that made the month, so whatever. So here is a really bad game from Dead Island. Just laugh at it. Oh, and I got a 45-second Zombie Appreciation trailer. I'll make it better next year, but seriously, it's going to be up just after this title screen, so skip that if you want to go right to the review. But Stryker, you say to yourself, and that really is a kind of a bad habit you should stop. But Stryker, I love the Dead Island series. Why is it so bad? Well, this is actually Escape Dead Island. It's a spin-off game that's nothing like the original survival horror games. This is a third-person adventure slash survival horror slash mystery game developed by Swedish developer Fat Shark, who's known for doing Bionic Commando Rearmed number 2, and Warhammer End Times Vermintide. Surprisingly, both are better games than what this ended up turning out to be, and of course it's all published by Deep Silver, a German studio. It's primarily cel-shaded throughout the game, but there's also some animated cutscenes that look kinda good.
Hey, Cliff!
You play as aspiring journalist Cliff Callow, the son of an influential broadcasting executive. And along with the ride are your two friends, Linda and Devin. You arrive on Narapella Island, part of the same archipelago as Benoy, hoping to uncover the truth behind the events of the outbreak on Benoy, which happened 6 months ago. Cliff even runs into Zine May, who seems to have survived the cliffhanger ending of Dead Island Riptide. Somehow. Well, she's here, come to the island searching for the guy that stole the zombie data from the opening sequence, which is from the Geofarm company. Seriously, she's just kind of there. Her voice acting isn't any better, but she just moves the plot along for the most part.
Oh no.
As you can tell, the game uses a cel-shaded graphic style. You can crouch and sneak up on enemies and execute them from behind, or use a melee weapon on them as well. There are firearms, but they have limited ammo, and yeah, a lot of the game is stealth-focused. If that little exclamation point fills up red, that means they've seen you. Otherwise, you gotta try to stay hidden as much as possible. Besides sneak attack, the main form of attack should be using melee. Melee utilizes light attacks, heavy attacks, and a dodge move. Specific enemies can be locked onto to focus the camera, but you probably won't use it too often because other zombies will sneak up behind you. For firearms, you have a pistol and a shotgun, but ammo's kind of scarce. There are only about 4 enemy types that repeat throughout the game, with 2 more used as kind of bosses on occasion. There's no reason to use the heavy attack. It's too slow and the animation leaves you open for counterattacking. A slew of light attacks will nearly kill all enemies you encounter in the game. So, yeah, stick with it. It's fast and quick.
Fuck this. I'm not staying around here.
Funny.
What does funny mean? What kind of response is that? So why does this game get such bad scores? Well, for one thing, the game lacks the RPG-like elements of the main Dead Island games. You don't rank up, you can't customize weapons, there are a limited number of weapons to use, and the weapons that are collected are done at fixed points of the game's story anyway. As a journalist, because every zombie apocalypse needs a journalist nowadays, the player character carries a camera that can be used to take pictures of objects in the game environment, causing the character to comment on them. This adds some backstory, but otherwise doesn't give the player experience or anything useful that he can use. And seriously, so many zombie games and movies focus on a journalist discovering a company that is behind the zombie outbreak that it really hinders on what a clever zombie story could be.
It's been days since our last radio contact. There are sharks encircling us at every turn, and...
No. Turns out if there was ever
Yeah, the script is also bad as well as the English-speaking actors. But you really can't even call them actors if they're just people off the street that they used, right?
At any second, things could go horribly wrong.
When they do go wrong, you'll go down with the ship.
No, actually, chivalry is dead. When you're out hunting zombies, it's every man for himself.
For using a simple art design, the environments are rather small, and unlike the other Dead Island games, it's not an open world. Not open in the traditional sense, anyway, instead consisting of a few main areas that are connected with narrow corridors. You can explore the environment, sure, but it's only for collectibles, and there are a number of closed-off areas you're going to come across until you have the right item or key card in order to gain access, and you'll be going through the same environments several times. It won't take you too long before you realize that this game does everything it can to slow you down and stretch things out. It takes nearly 2 hours by the time you get a weapon, and the main cast is introduced to zombies properly. And yeah, lady, you're probably not going to make it alive, so yeah. And you'll be constantly using those very long and narrow corridors that link up areas that seem to be designed to hide load times, but that doesn't make sense with the simple cell-shaded visuals. They should be able to load big environments just fine. That's why people used them. Oh, and you're forced to crouch several times on each trip, slowing you down even more. There's nothing to find in these environments, and the game makes backtracking such a chore that you'll most likely just play the locations in order to get them done.
I was finding out what happened here. Found a way into the labs.
Linda's dying, and you're fucking looking for a story?
I was helping her. I was talking to her the whole time on the radio.
We don't have a radio, Cliff.
Bullshit! There's gotta be a cure in the labs. I can still save her.
It's no surprise that Cliff Callow is prone to hallucinations, and the game often hints as to what may or may not be real, which puts the player in some odd situations at times, but the game never actually explains why he's having them. He just complains about his head hurting. The character's deteriorating mental state plays a significant role in gameplay and seems interesting at first, with many strange and nonsensical events occurring, such as containers falling from the sky. Unfortunately, it's used way too many times to just move the player further away from the next objective. Many times it needs to load in the hallucination effect, so you know it's coming. And those falling shipping containers, yeah, they're used 3 times in the game, so it gets tiring after a while. In fact, they're even used at the same location twice.
But you got one, so make some space.
The hallucination sequences often feel unnecessary and contrived, like the programmers just made them because this is a video game, so why not mix game elements around because we can. Since he's freaking out, we can just put things in his way, transport him to the other side of the map to make it take longer to get to the next objective, make up situations that the player needs to go through, and we don't need to give a reason why it's happening. Perfect.
What is that?
Are you fucking kidding me? It's a zombie! You've said the word several times up to this point in the game already! You're trying to investigate the outbreak of zombies on Benoy! You know what the fuck it's supposed to be! It wouldn't be a Dead Island game without a slew of technical flaws. Bugs and freezing can happen. Enemies will see you through objects, your melee attacks will hit the environment and not connect with zombies, and despite the simple textures and relatively low polygon count of the environments, you will see a lot of pop-in and the frame rate will suffer frequently. It's not game-breaking, but it can be frustrating.
Cliff!
Now we get to the voice acting. Yeah, unfortunately, it's on par with the rest of the series. Deep Silver likes to make games set in locations with Americans speaking English and others having noticeable accents. But not only do they fail to make conversation feel natural in their games, but it also seems like they're limited to only people that are capable of speaking English near their offices. The acting and inflections that are done in English in the voice work are often wrong and just embarrassing. CD Projekt Red is a Polish company. They're located in Warsaw, Poland. But the Witcher series has some of the best spoken dialogue of any game. So obviously Deep Silver isn't putting enough time into this aspect of their games. It's just really a shame. If there's one thing that will make you stop playing this game, it's the difficulty and the spaced out save points. Okay, I know that's actually two things, but they really do go hand in hand. The game seems relatively easy up until you get toward the end, but the problem is the huge focus on stealth. Most early areas in the game only have a dozen enemies total. You know, and you run into them in groups of 2 and 3 at most. But later on, one room can have 5 to 7 zombies and creatures. You're essentially not meant to just run around and kill zombies. This isn't a hack and slash. You have to use stealth. One special zombie, like a spitter or a butcher, and a handful of normal zombies, they can kill you rather quickly, especially if they're alerted. You actually get punished for running in and just attacking enemies, with more zombies entering the room.
What happened here?
You can't take much damage before you start getting into trouble, and the save points are put in ridiculous places. You're often meant to take out an entire room of like 5 or maybe 7 zombies, and you need to take out each one silently, because if at any point, because of a bug or a glitch or because of your own stupidity, one gets alerted, nearly everybody else is going to come at you and you're not going to be able to take them all on. What makes it even more frustrating is that a few times in the game, enemies will automatically be alerted, and you won't know why, which takes you by surprise. And when you get taken by surprise, you're gonna die. And you're gonna need to play through that section again, which is gonna take you another 1 to 2 minutes to get back to where you were every time. They often put a special enemy in a place that you weren't expecting, like the last one to kill before the game is gonna autosave, and it's just unfair. By the end of the game, you're approaching shadow zombie versions that have more health, and they can take you down into 3 to 4 hits by themselves.
Well then.
No!
So this is not a good game, but I actually wanted to talk about the ending of the game to kind of show you how things kind of fall apart. And as long as the word spoiler here is up in that upper right corner, skip ahead about a minute and a half, you can get to my game conclusion and it won't ruin the story for you. But to talk about this, Cliff gets onto the beach and releases a flotation case into the ocean containing the data drive and a voice recording of the accounts that he just witnessed. He's called back to the island by the voice of Linda, the flotation case drifts out into the ocean, and after the credits roll, the plot actually loops back around to the beginning of the game, with the flotation case passing by the boat in the opening sequence. See, that's it right there. There's the case. This time loop thing may seem interesting, but I don't think the game really earns it. We're never really told why he's going crazy. Did he suffer the traumatic loss of a child that his brain is trying to shield him from? Nope. Did he get a zombie bite that, though it didn't turn him, is having severe consequences on his brain chemistry? Nope. Things just happen. And when you try to imply that the entire game is some sort of hallucination on the main character's part, you need to have a character's journey that makes sense in that context. Kind of like the movie Inception. So yeah, and apparently if you beat the game again, you get the true ending, but I couldn't find anybody that was willing to talk about it after they spent another 4 hours, so I'm not going to beat the game. So here are my final thoughts. Can I change that? No one knows who the fuck Jerry Springer is anyway. So, the characters are forgettable and the combat isn't fun enough to keep playing for very long. The game only takes about 5 to 6 hours to get through, but some difficult sections toward the end will really annoy you. If publisher Deep Silver had the team focus on combat or try to tell an interesting story, it may have worked. The original Dead Island was fun despite its numerous technical flaws because, for the first time, it gave us zombie-killing teamwork with 4-player co-op, and a combat system that let you use a variety of weapons, along with modifications to make electrified hammers and machetes that set the undead on fire. It had faults, but it was still fun to play. Escape Dead Island has none of that, but most hurtful of all, it doesn't do anything admirable on its own. This is a way below average game at best. The cell shading doesn't look too bad, but given the okay looking visuals, they really needed to have their gameplay on point, and it's just not fun to run into a room and kill a bunch of zombies when they can kill you back in only a matter of a handful of hits. I give the game a score of 34. Below average, way below. Just avoid it. Everybody else is giving it like a 2.